No problem. Do you use video?
I do use video.
Oh shit.
It's all right. You look great.
I don't know about that.
You kidding me? You even said in your special, you're a handsome white guy, 47 years old. You got it going on.
I would have put a little more effort into it.
That's completely fine, man. This is the best ones are the ones where you don't put in any effort.
A
I'm
little bit.
glad to hear that of all the people is I mean it was just fantastic special to watch and everything. And I gotta tell you, I don't watch specials much anymore. And the fact that I sat down and watched this entire hour is just it says a lot about who you are as a comic. That's just
Oh,
it was great from top to bottom.
oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks.
What went into making it? Because I gotta say, you came out just swinging, speaking Chinese, and then 30 minutes later, you're talking about your testicular cancer.
Well, now, in fairness, the opening with the speak in Chinese, that was, I mean, if you pay attention, like it's a clip from later in the show. So that was actually a creative decision that my wife, Hannah Berner, said it was slightly inspired by Shane Gillis's YouTube special. I feel like he kind of opens with like a bit of crowd work and then just
Mm.
goes to his special. So we were of the opinion that you just need to start. We didn't want any like walking on stage. So we thought, let's start with this bit of crowd work where you're speaking in Chinese, and then people go, this is not what we're used to seeing. So
Right.
you get their attention. And then in the edit, I decided with the guys that were editing, that were working with me, that we would just, ring a bell and then just go into the special. So there was
Mm.
like, there's just because I don't know, these days everyone is all about like, oh, nobody has an attention span. So we were trying to find the way to start strongest and also like the least amount of the least amount of nothing happening in
Right.
advance of the show.
Yeah. I think you and Hannah made the correct decision in doing that because I think, let's pretend I talked to 20 comics this year. You are like one of two of them that have just said, I got to start because there's so much pomp and circumstance when coming out with these specials. And we have 3 minutes of clapping up top and then 3 minutes of clapping at the bottom. Like, no, I just want to hear the jokes. I'm ready to just get hit in the face with a bunch of jokes that are gonna make me, double over while I'm sitting in my chair. And I think that you really do accomplish that. If people were at that show that didn't know who you are, they definitely know who you are now.
Yeah, so like, and then even the first bit is not the. I mean, I'm letting out all my secrets here, but the first joke in the special wasn't the first joke on the night. I
Okay.
just, I just, after the, but in fairness, even when I was recording, I was planning to over record. Got a lot of material from a long time doing comedy a long time,
Yeah.
so I was planning to over record and then kind of like decide on the order uh in the edit.
Mm.
So that this particular special, I've done shows where they're very much a beginning, middle, and an end, but this wasn't a greatest hits, but there was a sort of a reimagining of some older bits of mine from like my days of performing in Ireland.
Yeah.
So I was really just trying to get the bits out as best as possible and then deciding on the order after the fact. So particularly the first half of the special, there is a lot of jigsawing after the fact in what you actually saw.
Yeah. How was writing, bringing those bits from Ireland over to Americans? Because, yeah, you can tell pub jokes because they can translate to bar things, but things that exist in Ireland don't really necessarily all the time exist here. So, what was it like rewriting those for American audiences?
Yeah, that just happened over time. So basically, like, I started comedy in 1997, but until 2016, I didn't really perform in the States every now and then,
Yeah.
but like never for any length of time. So when I came back from China, I was just kind of like, I don't know, I had an itch to do more stuff outside of Ireland because like if you can figure out how to make Chinese people laugh in Mandarin in China,
Yeah.
and also make expats that are living in China laugh about China, like I just was like, I need to expand my horizons. So anyway, from just taking those bits out in the road, like trial and error, 2016 through to after the pandemic. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
long journey, really. I just slowly like figured out which bits work. I mean, I have hours and hours of material that does not work in the States. It's very
Yeah.
Irish, and that material served me very well over the years, outsider's point of view on Ireland. But eventually over time, you figure out the bits that are like universal and they work. And then to be honest with you, touring it in the States, like fresh audience, different, you have to rethink the stuff. It
Yeah.
makes it all stronger.
Yeah.
So actually, if you were a sleuth, you could try to find my Irish special that I recorded back in like 2017. I recorded that in Ireland. And I mean, 30 or 40% of what you saw was also on that. But I promise you, if you watched that from 2016 to 2017, you would say all the bits that I saw were better than that because
Yeah.
they ran the gaunt. I was able to travel around America and just, I don't know, make them better. Plus, people don't know me here. In Ireland, I'm pretty well known. So I had to take all those bits to audiences who I had to win over. So you naturally just make it's a necessity is the mother of invention. Like I had to make those bits better to win the audience over.
Yeah, it making them better. I think it's like making a spear. If you're, I don't know, on Survivor or something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You got to sharpen the blade just over and over and over, so you can fish better and spear those fish better. I'm sure there's a point there, but I said speaking Chinese earlier. I meant to say speaking Mandarin. And
No, actually, that's not a problem. It's funny.
okay,
People always try to say, not Chinese people, by the way, but a lot of people say, "Oh, it's Mandarin, not Chinese," but it's not really true. I mean, if you want to get super pedantic,
Mhm.
you could argue, that it's like not totally incorrect, but it's actually not offensive. For some reason, over here, there came this thing was like, "Oh, it's don't say Chinese, it's Mandarin." But when you're in China and Chinese people are speaking English,
Yeah,
they say your Chinese is good. They don't say your Mandarin is good.
right. Yeah. What when you first heard your Chinese is good, what went through your head? Did you ever feel that you were finally a part like a part of those people? You're finally a part of the land. You're like, I'm this fucking great person who can now go to three different continents and be able to fit in anywhere.
Well, the bad news about it is they say your Chinese is good on day one and when you're literally fluent and doing stand up in Chinese. So they're so polite that, the first time I heard that, actually my Chinese was not good. You know,
Oh shit.
I was getting the same compliments, a year and 2 years later when, I'm like living my life full time in Mandarin. But what was satisfying was, when I was able to perform like, properly to Chinese audiences in Mandarin, that's when I was like, oh, I mean, I never thought that my Mandarin was amazing, but it was definitely good enough to have strong shows. There were times where I was killing in Mandarin, and that was very satisfying.
Yeah. Is there anything that you miss from over in China or over in Ireland that we don't have here, be it food or just like audience types or anything?
Well, Ireland, I go back and forth still all the time.
Oh,
So
cool. Okay.
yeah, and all my best friends. I mean, I had never intended to leave Ireland as I hadn't intended to move back to the States full time. I just happened to meet Hannah during the pandemic. But China, I mean, there's so much about China that I miss because there's a chaos there that you kind of get into.
Yeah.
Uh, there's like eating culture. Obviously, I don't just mean like Chinese food, but just
Mhm.
there's like an eating culture, like the importance of food over there. I kind of miss, like I miss the Beijing summers, like sitting outside. I was talking to Ari Shafir recently on his podcast, and he had been over. I actually met Ari in China originally. That's actually how I know him. And we were reminiscing about, just sitting on crappy little plastic benches eating like lamb skewers on the Chinese. That's kind of like they're going out.
Yeah.
So I miss that. I miss the high speed rail.
Mm.
High speed
Yes.
rail, pretty cool.
Yeah.
I got an
And
Amtrak. I got an Amtrak to Philadelphia recently, and it was just delays, and I was just like, oh my God. The one thing about China, it's the bad thing about a totalitarian state
Mhm.
is that they can do whatever they want. Uh, but on the flip side, you end up with incredible infrastructure because they just tell people like, sorry, you're not allowed to live here anymore, which is horrific.
Right.
But infrastructure was incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like they can build a bridge in a week and it'll be
Yeah.
a sound bridge and you go, holy shit, like I can drive my car over this and feel comfortable about not dying.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a criticism of America because we have like property rights here, but when I was living in Beijing, I was only there for 2 years, and I like two subway lines, new full subway lines, were completed while I was there, and we couldn't get like five extra stops on the queue in New York over like a decade.
Yeah.
So there was like that stuff is amazing. I mean, how it's created is not amazing, but when you're actually using the infrastructure, you're like, wow, this infrastructure is like the high speed
Yeah.
rail is incredible.
Yeah. You mentioned the chaos that China brought, but being somebody who lives in New York, do you live in New York proper or do you live in Queens or are you at the Hamptons right now?
Well, right now I'm in the Hamptons, but I live in the Lower East Side. Normally, I'm
Lower
only
side.
here for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
I just had to come out and check on something, but I have a place in the Lower East Side,
But
but I
so
go to Queens.
is like is that does that like living in Manhattan does that bring the same type of chaos that China kind of had? Because you can go out and get food anytime. You can have audiences whenever. You can go up. You can go out find entertainment somewhere. So does that kind of scratch that itch in a way?
It's definitely not the same.
Right.
Just Asia in general. I mean, China is very Chinese,
Mhm.
but more pan-Asian culturally. There's just a different feeling that's hard to recreate. I don't know. I don't know how to articulate what it is, but like when you're in it, it feels different, you know. Um, some of it's not great, like the way that they drive and everything. I don't mean like from the stereotype of Chinese people can't drive, but I mean the culture of driving in Beijing it's
Yeah.
a little like haphazard and um, there's like China has this like lack of planning
Mm.
uh that just makes like really weird stuff like some really nice restaurant will be in the middle of like a like a bunch of government building. Like it won't make any sense, but it'll
Yeah.
be amazing. So a lot of what I loved about China was that it just doesn't make sense. But when you embrace that, it's like refreshing to go like, oh yeah, you don't need as much order.
Yeah.
You don't need as much order as we thought. So you don't really get that sense of it being recreated in New York. But I mean, New York, I love New York. It's just I don't get I don't really. I mean, I get a little bit of Chinese food. It's like the reason why I picked my apartment Lower East Side because near Chinatown.
Mhm.
I speak Chinese with people in the park and stuff like that. But like, I don't. It's not the same. The chaos of Asian.
Yeah.
It's just different. Not Japan. Japan's very ordered.
Yeah. Where do you like to eat in the Lower East Side? What are your favorite places to order from?
Oh, well, there used to be a place called Spicy Village, which was just down on Forsyth Street, but they shut down, which uh, it disappointed me. I'm a big fan of the Xi'an Mingshi, the Xi'an famous foods, but it's kind of like a chain, but they have very good, like authentic Chinese. They have the rojia which is like a Chinese hamburger.
Okay.
I don't know I think they might call them like human lamb bun in English.
Okay.
It sounds pretentious, but there's actually certain foods that I got used to eating in China that I actually don't, I don't have the English for them, but I think they call them a lamb cumin bun. Um, there's also a great little Lanzhou pulled noodle place on the corner of East Broadway and Allen, or I guess down there they call that maybe Pike Slip, but
Mhm.
um, coincidentally enough, it's underneath a place that got raided by the FBI because it was actually like an outpost of the Fujian police. They were spying on Fujian people that were living in New York.
Damn. That's crazy. But that, I mean,
You can read
those
about
police
that. You can read
officers.
about that in the New York Times. That's a real story.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up because like that the food must have been good because those police officers must have gone to that restaurant every single day, like no doubt.
The food's good, man. But I mean, there's so much good. Like Flushing, obviously, is the best place to get Chinese food. But
Mhm.
even in Manhattan, like there's so many Chinese students at NYU, students in Columbia. Like these kids, they're all going to like nice, good, authentic Chinese food restaurants in Manhattan. There's one in the East Village. It's a Sichuan place. I forgot the name of it, but I've been there before. Like there's just so many good, authentic Chinese places that like didn't exist back in the day. In fact, I was in Madison, Wisconsin, because a lot of Chinese there too because of the university.
Mhm.
And I went to this Sichuan place. I actually stopped a Chinese kid on the street, and I was like, "Yo, where's good to eat?" I asked him Chinese. So he told me to go to this place, and inside was all Chinese students, and on the menu was all the stuff that I wanted to eat. And then the last page it said American Chinese food. It literally
Oh,
was separate, chicken and broccoli, General Tso's chicken. It had its own section on the
oh my
menu.
God.
Let's call a spade a spade. This food is different.
That sounds disgusting. That's because like especially coming from somebody who has had the authentic stuff to go back and see just the regular, most boring, basic style.
It's one of the great conflicts of Hannah likes American Chinese food, and
Right.
Hannah's dad likes American Chinese food. So they're always like, "You order in Chinese," but then I order all the shit that I like from China, and they hate it. They won't eat it.
Is it, do you like the spicy stuff or you going for
Yeah, I like it
burnt?
all, man. I like it
Okay.
all, and I got even more into it from being there. And Sichuan, the mala, as they say, the numbing spice. I don't know if you ever had that with the peppercorns.
No.
Makes your mouth buzz. Your mouth
Yeah.
actually kind of buzzes. The first time I ate it in China, I didn't know what was going on. Because it was like we're going for Sichuan food. I thought we were. I was expecting like a hot, like what we know as hot and
Yeah.
spicy. But then I had a feeling I'd never had before. This mala, this peppercorn feeling that like it numbs your mouth. Your mouth starts to like buzz and tingle. And the first time you taste it, it's kind of weird, and then you get addicted to it. Like I'm addicted
Yeah.
to it.
Ugh, geez. We don't see, I'm in Atlanta and we don't have
Uh,
any like really good Chinese food nearby. There's another city called Doraville that's like 20, 30 minutes away that has like a line on a place called Buford Highway that's just like all Korean, Chinese,
I
Japanese,
just read it.
Indian.
There's an article I think in the Atlantic or in Politico about how the Koreans, which I think was there, the
Mhm.
Korean community in near Atlanta, were are they're leaning away from the Democratic Party. But anyway, I think they were talking about that area that you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah, and unfortunately, it's like not even walkable. So you still have to drive there, and then you have
Yes.
to like decide to go to whichever restaurant. You can pop in obviously with a car, but that kind of stinks. That defeats the purpose. Like I'm living in Atlanta, I want to walk around and go and try out different places.
Yeah, well, like people aren't going to Atlanta for Chinese food, so that's all right.
That's
Let's
true.
get some nice Southern food, some
Yeah,
soul food, man.
yeah.
The
Oh,
first time I
also,
ever had the first time I ever had collard greens was in Atlanta.
really,
I
what'd you
never
think?
had them. Only like a year and a half ago.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
God, what'd you think? What? How did it feel
I,
like to?
I liked it,
Okay,
but like, to me it's like a reasonable accompaniment, but it wouldn't be like my pick of like the most amazing stuff.
yeah.
But it was,
Yeah, there's a bunch of restaurants that were added to the Michelin star list and like the cheap Michelin star list or cheap Michelin eats list this past year. And it's interesting to see Atlanta for the first time reach that list and see a boom that kind of feels like it's in New York or LA and or Chicago and make it feel like one of those cities on the same tier making really good food.
and is it like are some of them like authentic like fancy versions of local cuisine? Is this happening?
Yeah, unfortunately, there's a lot of that and a lot of like French stuff, a lot of European
All right.
things that I just thought that, because they, again, they have two. They have like the fancy one, then they have like here are the ones where everyone can afford. And I live across the
Yeah.
street from one of those and it's busy like from Saturday to Sunday. It's the busiest I've ever seen a place. And it's so interesting to watch like these fancy restaurants that have been around for a little bit and see the food kind of be pretentious and then see like a biscuit place, just
Yeah.
exceed. And I just think, all right, great. We have both of these, but now what? I want to be able to like to bandy between both of them and maybe like get stuff that's in the middle too, so that
Well, I
everybody
want a
can.
Michelin star Southern food place. That's
Yeah. A real like yeah, like a real Michelin like yes, definitely. I would definitely want to see like a Gordon Ramsay style Southern food restaurant with the fried chicken, the collard greens, the
yes,
mac and cheese, all that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah. I want to ask about of all the people, is it so there's a re-release, I've been told. There's a re-release with 800 Pound Gorilla Media. How have you been approaching that? Because I knew the special when it came out 8 months ago, but now that you have this Grammy consideration, all this stuff, you want people to drive interest. How has that been for you lately with all that?
Well, to be honest, when I, by the way, it's of all people, it's actually kind of like it's a joke because I went to the MTV Music Awards with Hannah, and an Irish tabloid wrote about it, and they said Des Bishop of all people showed up at the MTV Music Awards. So it's it's actually of all people. It's the way people say that sometimes, like
Yeah,
of all people.
yeah.
So anyway, what happened was I put it out, and then within 2 weeks, I think I tore my ACL skiing. Uh, and I had to get surgery and I had to go to Ireland. So I never really promoted properly, other
Mhm.
than the clips did awesome. I mean, the bigger thing from the special is that the clips that I put up couldn't have done better.
Yeah.
Special did fine on YouTube, but the clips did incredible. But I never did the run of podcasts, and I'm not great with YouTube. So when 800 Pound Gorilla asked if I would be interested in re-releasing it with them, I was more than happy. I mean, the Grammy consideration thing is, I was told to post and I posted, and like 25% of the people think I've been nominated for a Grammy, which is not the case. But at the same time, I don't know who votes, but hopefully some of them see it and go, "Oh yeah, I like that guy. Let me check his special out. Maybe I'll give him a vote." You
Yeah.
just never know. You're not in, you can't win.
Yeah. I mean, think of how many people have put out a special this year and then also yeah, who aren't putting in their name into the bucket. And then they always wonder why, oh, I lost to Louis, I lost to Dave, I lost to Amy Schumer, just like no, just it's okay to try just a little bit. And I think that's what you're excelling
Well,
at.
when I put the album together, because a lot of times people don't submit because they actually never make an album, right? They never convert their YouTube special into the audio, release it, right? Which you have to
Yeah.
do. But I told them when I was doing that, like whatever, a few months ago, I said, I just want to be considered for the Grammy. I said that's really all I care about. Not I didn't think I was going to be nominated, but I wanted a chance. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
so that was actually my main goal on the making it into an album front. And it's listen, sometimes people crank it on Spotify and that's great, and the clips go up on Sirius XM, and that's great. And it's just another way to get your name out there. But um, as far as the 800 Pound Gorilla thing goes, for me personally, it just gives me a chance to promote it properly because I
Yeah.
really did not do any of that.
Yeah. And what's it and sharing the clips. I'm looking at your Instagram, getting ready for this interview and sharing the clips. It's yes, the special is shot so well and you're putting up the exact right stuff. But now that you're promoting it, what are you seeing? People are saying about how you do your comedy and what are they saying about the jokes? Do they love them? Because I got like there wasn't one part of this special where I thought you were peddling. I just thought I was like, man, this guy is there's joke after joke after joke. Like I'm smiling the whole way through this morning.
Well, my agent, when I sent it to him, like while we were editing, so
Mhm.
an early version, not of this, like back in December or January, I sent it to him for some notes, and he said, you know, when it started, I was going to send you the note, like you can't start this hot because you won't be able to keep it up. And then he said, but you kept it up the
Yeah.
whole time. But that's just like an energy thing. First of all, it's at the cellar, so it's like a very, it's a hot room. That room is hot.
Mhm.
And I don't know why, like during the pandemic, I I wrote a lot of material that's not in the special, actually. That kind of came and went like pandemic material. It was like of a moment.
Yeah.
And I was actually going to record that quick, like a pandemic special, but there was so much vitriol around issues around the pandemic. When I posted one or two of those clips, I was just like, that intense anger around whatever issue was bothering people, and masks and different things. So I said, you know what? I don't need this in my life. So I never actually recorded, like I never properly recorded like that pandemic material. But anyway, I came back after the pandemic with like an energy. I was like frustrated and I had a lot to say
Yeah.
about things. And I don't know. It kind of like my performance style did actually like shift a little bit. And then
Mm,
that energy leaned itself into some of those routines. I mean, some of them, as I said, were old, but they definitely all got an injection of energy.
mhm.
And also because this wasn't like this special is not like a show that I was touring. It's basically like a collection of closers. So they all have that kind of energy of I could close on this.
Yeah.
Oh. Which I'll probably never be able to do that again. You know, like I had a lot to, I had a lot to choose from in it. So, like the one bit that I had never recorded, that bit about, going down and, like
Yeah.
that bit did really well. But like that was the bit that I needed to record. Like I'd never actually, that's never been on anything ever.
Mm.
So I was like, I got to get this done. But then other bit, but I close on, like I'd say 60% of that special has been a closer of mine in the last 5 or 6 years, you know?
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Is from somebody who is looking into your world of how you write your stuff. Because I mean, everything just you're right. That energy was so palpable, and I really enjoyed it. I think the audience really enjoyed it too. And yes,
Some
it
people,
is
I
a
mean,
hot
some people
room.
can't handle it. Some people like they don't like that kind of intense. Like they think it's like shouty and all that stuff. But
Yeah,
that's all right because I always like the strong comics. Like I always
yeah.
like the comics that come at you. To be honest, man, all my comedy heroes, black dudes, man. It's like Richard Pryor, Eddie
Mhm.
Murphy, Chris Rock. Like I always loved black comics, and I mean, it's a stereotype, but I think it's true. They all have energy. I
Yeah.
mean, like those are the guys that inspired me. And like I don't think I'm a black comic, but like I like, I like performing with other black comics, like black comics that aren't famous. I like that energy. And I'm not saying they all have that,
Mhm.
but I think the energy that I'm talking about that probably obvious to people, I love that, you
Yeah.
know?
Those are the and like in those three comics, those are three guys. Let's go back to the Apollo, who could perform at the Apollo, control that crowd, who are notoriously loud and rowdy and everything. And I think if you come out with that same energy, you could do the same thing. I think Bill Burr would be right up there with the same type of ability of being able to go out to the Apollo in 1989 and tell people to shut the fuck up and
Yeah,
still
well, he
tell their
did it.
jokes.
He did do it to white people on an Opie and Anthony show, which was a similarly like hostile crowd, and that was a famous. I mean, I don't know. You seem pretty young, but I don't know if you know about that. That's like a famous gig that he went out for an Opie and Anthony show in Philadelphia, and it was a horrific crowd, and they were booing him, and he won them over. Like it's like if you ever get a chance to watch it, like it's so funny
Yeah.
because you have to watch. I'm not going to do any of his jokes, but like, but I 100% agree with you. But funnily enough, Bill Burr is actually not one of my inspirations, and I'm getting a lot of people saying that I'm like Bill Burr, which I don't mind because I really like him.
Yeah.
But actually, I haven't ever watched like a full Bill Burr special. Like, and in the later years of my comedy, I don't really sit down and watch specials. So when people ask me like who inspires me, it's always people from my childhood and like the 90s and 2000s that are really the ones that like, influence me, not guys that I bump into at the cellar.
Yeah. Do you think there's going to be a kid in 10 years who's like 22 years old and they're like, who inspires you? And it's going to be some TikTok comedian who is just all he does is crowd work and that person doesn't know how to write a joke.
Well, I mean, the industry's changed a lot. Like, I mean, a lot of that stuff doesn't frustrate me as much as it frustrates other comics because, you know, like the game just changed, you know what I mean? So those some people got lucky enough to realize that like, oh, you post these like frivolous clips of crowd work and they fly
Yeah.
and it worked for them. So it's just kind of like right place, right time a lot of the time. I also think that like younger comics, uh, they don't have an advantage, but when it comes to online content, like it's more innate to them
Mhm.
to think visually. You know what I mean? Like I'm not bad at it now, like with the content and the clips, but like I was an ocean liner, a slow turn to get my head into that zone of like understanding not just visually what works and how to make it look right, but even how to like start performing and writing in a way that's like slightly more uh beneficial for when you actually do clips.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the crowd work thing, like that was also just a moment in time. Like you just go with the flow with these things. Like it just happens. And some people get lucky. I mean, look at Logan Paul, Jake Paul. I mean, these guys like they were there in the early days of Vine and
Hmm.
they just figured it out. And now they're like multi millionaires for what? Like for nonsense, But like
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like it's a moment in time. They ran with it, they figured it out, and then they understood the business enough to keep it going. I think that's there's nothing you can do about that. So it doesn't frustrate me at all. The crowd work stuff and all that. Like I'm fine with it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to put it. And it's I'm Hannah and I are around the same age, and not to compare, us, or me and her, or you and her. It's she's like it's somebody who's young but also good at the internet. Like it took me forever to learn how to cut stuff for TikTok, which I just got for C plus comedy maybe a year ago, and I was so late to the party. And if I look at my account and then Hannah's account, it's just bananas different, bananas bonkers. And then you and her, there are two different ones, but I think you're doing just as well because you've finally picked up the rhythm and the tempo, and it's different for everybody. And I wouldn't relegate it to just an age thing because I have no interest in learning how to be better at TikTok. I just kind of want to get the shit and then put it out
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think too, well, in terms of Hannah, that people don't realize is that her first job, like she was a tennis player, and then she had like just a boring like sales job. But her
Mhm.
first job in like the world of entertainment was making content for Betches, and that was like a baptism of fire. But it was
Yeah.
long before she got into stand-up comedy. So she was thinking about being funny on the internet
Mhm.
long before she started doing stand-up comedy. And as it turns out, that skill is more important than stand-up. Actually, she was actually ahead of the game. Like some people are like,
Yeah.
oh, she's doing it that long. And it's like, yeah, but she's doing what matters longer than you. That's the thing.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. Well, Des, I don't
Who
want to
knew
take up
though?
it.
Who knew though? That's the thing. Who knew? We didn't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Des, I don't want to take up any more of your time. This has been a fantastic conversation. You are the same person on stage as you are in real life. That's truly, you're just a very funny guy. And I'm so glad I got a chance to A, watch your special, and B, get to know you a little bit more.
Well, thank you so much. Nice chatting to you, man.
Yeah, yeah. You have a great rest of your day, and enjoy this special, and all the Emmy considerations, Grammy considerations you get from
All right, great, man.
it.
Nice
All
to
right.
meet you. See you,
See
bro.
ya.